My questions are about the citizenship backdoor between New Zealand and Australia. Changes made by the Albanese Government in July 2023 allowed New Zealand citizens who have lived here for 4 years to become Australian citizens without having to first become permanent residents. Is that correct?
Senator Mr. Leighton is joining us.
Drew Leighton, Acting
First Assistant Secretary, Citizenship, Humanitarian Family Visa Programs and Support Division. Technically, that is correct. The 444 visa holders are categorised as a temporary visa. They do have since that time become eligible for citizenship.
Thank you. And a New Zealand citizen can come here without a visa and automatically qualify for a subclass 444 visa. That's correct?
No, that's not correct, Senator. The 444 visa is applied upon arrival to a New Zealander, so they obtain that when they arrive in Australia.
Can they get onto basically that's the same as a permanent visa?
It's a temporary visa, the 444, Senator.
Is it effectively a permanent visa they can stay?
So they can stay indefinitely, but it's classified as a temporary visa.
Yeah, okay. I don't know why that's the case, but let's leave that. They can stay indefinitely. Then after 4 years, so they arrive, get a 444 visa making them stay indefinitely. Then after 4 years, they can get citizenship without getting a permanent visa, straight from subclass 444 to citizenship. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. We really are just relying then, aren't we, on New Zealand having the same standards for citizenship as Australia?
Senator, this was a government policy decision. We are responsible for giving effect to it.
And it's worth recognising, Senator Roberts, that many, if not most of those New Zealand citizens who are gaining Australian citizenship have spent many years in Australia working, paying taxes, those kinds of...
I recognise that. I'll go on. Do they, though, in New Zealand? Because you may become a citizen in New Zealand if you've been there 5 years. You can hold a conversation in English and are of good character proven with a police check. Summary offences don't take away your good character. That's the bar these people are using to become Australian citizens. Yes, some Kiwis are here for 20 years. It's annoying that they don't become citizens, but there's certain loopholes to certain benefits not becoming citizens. I'm talking about people who use this as an easy entry why New Zealand is now the #1 source of Australian citizens in the 2-year period from 1st of July 23 to 30th of June 25. So it is an easy backdoor, isn't it? For someone who's come to New Zealand and come straight here.
So again, Senator, I think you're asking us for an opinion. We can give you facts about the system, but we can't comment on assertions of that nature.
They can do that, can't they?
So, Senator...
I'm not asking for your opinion. They can do that. Thank you.
Technically, someone can, as the officers have said, come to Australia on a 444 visa, and after 4 years they can apply for citizenship.
But noting they would have had to have met the time threshold in New Zealand to acquire New Zealand citizenship as well.
Yeah,
so,
but that's at a very low threshold, low bar. So in that period, from 1st of July 23 to 30th of June 25, 48% of New Zealanders who are now Australian citizens were not born in New Zealand. They came into New Zealand from overseas. That's a backdoor entry to Australian citizenship with a much lower bar because they had to meet the threshold for New Zealand, which is lower than Australian citizenship. That's a much lower bar than people moving here directly and following the rules in Australia to citizenship, including passing what is called our 100-point test with at least a score of 65. This New Zealand backdoor is way easier than getting 65 on the 100-point test. Just for clarity, children don't generally need to pass the citizenship test. Can you clarify that rule by age, please? What's the age threshold?
Senator, it's 18.
Thank you. Do you understand the position that offering this pathway to people from foreign countries to come in through the back door in New Zealand without passing the points test is a slap in the face for those who have come here fairly, waited, worked, studied and did the right thing but can't get citizenship because this government rode a backdoor way for no obvious reason? Can you understand that?
Senator, we can't comment on opinion of that nature.
I have to say, I think it's pretty insulting to a lot of New Zealand citizens who become Australian citizens to talk about them coming through a back door.
I'm talking about people who come into New Zealand, meet the lower threshold in New Zealand and come here. That's who I'm talking about, Senator Watt. I'm surprised you can't work that out. If this was about working with our neighbour New Zealand, why wasn't there a provision for the pathway to only be open to New Zealand-born people rather than to deliberately set up a backdoor to let in people that couldn't pass a points test? What was the reason for that?
Senator, the policy and the parameters around that are a matter for government.
Minister?
Well, I'm trying to remember the reason the government made that change in our first term. My recollection is that it was partly in recognition that there are, because of a change that had been made by the Howard government, that there are a very large number, or were a very large number of New Zealand citizens who had lived in Australia, as I say, worked, paid taxes, contributed to the community in a range of ways, but despite having lived here for a very long time, they were unable to get Australian citizenship because of rules the Howard government imposed. That, in our view, was not fair. So I remember that being at least one of the motivations for changing the policy.
So I've got no problem with that. What I'm talking about is people who come to New Zealand, quickly meet the lower threshold for citizenship there and come here and automatically get citizenship.
Well, I'm not sure that people who, as you say, move to New Zealand and then move to Australia are necessarily of low standard, and that's sort of what you're implying in your question.
And Senator Roberts, I would also suggest that the New Zealand citizenship process is not a matter for Home Affairs. Yeah.
No, it's about using that threshold for people who are new to New Zealand. How many citizens have been awarded citizenships have been awarded to people without passing the points test under any circumstances?
Sorry, the points test?
Senator,
The Australian entry citizenship
the points test is one way somebody can gain a permanent residency in Australia, but not every person who gains permanent residency in Australia comes in as a points tested migrant.
So how many come in without passing the points test?
Senator, I would have to take that on notice. I would note that there's also employer-sponsored migrants. There's many different types of permanent residents.
If you could, please, thank you. I'll just quote from an article here. It's also prompted New Zealand Foreign Minister Winston Peters to flag concerns his country is being used as a stepping stone by migrants wanting to come to Australia, and that the trend will further accelerate under an easing of its own migration rules, which will grant residency in just 18 months for some workers. Winston Peters is concerned because he doesn't think, he also says here, those numbers combined with the recent rise in New Zealanders moving to Australia have raised doubts about Australia's ability to meet a planned slowdown in migration. He doubts whether you're going to slow down, as well as concerns it's robbing New Zealand of both its professional and low-skilled workforce.
Well, for starters, Senator Roberts, migration numbers in Australia have significantly fallen over the last couple of years.
Compared to when?
What's
the baseline?
Compared to the surge that we saw after COVID.
You mean the surge in 23, 24?
Yeah, that was the surge that happened after
Your
COVID.
surge, where you went from 500 to
the surge
750?
that followed COVID.
Senator Roberts, we have been very orderly throughout today, and you are usually pretty good at not interjecting, and I would ask that you maintain that order and allow the minister to respond, please.
And just a couple of other facts about this situation, Senator Roberts. I think we've already heard that the process that now applies still requires a person, someone who has moved to New Zealand and gained New Zealand citizenship. They are required to have that for 5 years. So they spend 5 years in New Zealand and then 4 years in Australia. So if you want to characterise that as a backdoor, that's a pretty slow backdoor. And the second point about, you've been asking questions about the points test. Any Australian person who wants to get Australian citizenship still needs to meet the character, identification, security tests as well. So I don't think as I said earlier, I think it's a bit insulting to be suggesting these people are running through a back door and are of low standard, and that's what you're suggesting.
There's a bloody long garden path leading to that back door.
I've worked and lived in New Zealand, turning around a business there for 12 months. They're wonderful people. But Winston Peters is concerned that their immigration system is being used for quick entry into New Zealand to go to
And
Australia.
that's a question for New Zealand to address.
And it's also a question for Australia to address, and that's what I'm doing on behalf of the taxpayers. Minister, I agree with you on one point. Mass immigration was started by John Howard's government. It's pretty much doubled since then to Scott Morrison's government, and then you have tripled it in the early days, 23, 24.
Actually, what's NOM stand for again?
Net overseas.
Net overseas migration has fallen by 45% over the last 12 months, 18 months. I can get you the exact
You
time
had two
frame.
very high years, a low year,
Yeah,
and now a
after
very
COVID.
high year again. You're playing with numbers.
It's another one of those ones. We're never going to convince you, but
Senator Roberts, have you got a question?
I go by the data.
During COVID, migration crashed. After COVID,
Correct.
Lots of people came home. Migration rose. We have now reduced NOM by about 45%.
That's
Like-
misleading, Minister, because
No, it's
it
actually called
increased
facts.
dramatically under Morrison to re-establish what he thought was the right numbers of migration. Then you almost doubled it, then you decreased it slightly, and now you're doubling it
So
again.
we should have told all those Australians who wanted to come home after COVID that they weren't allowed home.
No,
Yes,
not
sorry,
at all. I'm
can
talking
I
about
just, can
immigrants.
I
I'm talking about
just interject
immigration.
for a
Mass
second
immigration.
here?
Mass
Senator
immigration.
Roberts, I am not hearing any questions from you. Can I take it you have finished this line of
Yes, you
questions? Thank you very much. I will now